Hey, what's up guys? Kevin here from KevsPicks.com, and I'm back with my DraftKings NFL Week 9 picks. I'm going to switch over to the computer, get right into the picks.
All right, starting off at quarterback, I've got Drew Brees, $7,000. The Saints are at home versus Tampa Bay. This game's got an over-under at 52 points. The Saints are 6.5-point favorites. Their implied team total is a very high 29.3, and Brees is a reasonable price there at $7,000. With those kind of numbers for implied team totals and the spread there, 6.5 points, you would think that Brees might be getting closer to $8,000 on DraftKings, but he's fairly cheap at $7,000. One of the more expensive quarterbacks of the week, but I still think that's a pretty good price. I think you can fit him in your cash lineups possibly and GPPs for sure as well. He will be pretty popular, but I like him for both cash and GPPs. If we look at his game log here, nothing too special this year. He's even let me down a couple times that I've taken him. 11 points last week, 13 against the Lions, 15 against the Vikings. But he's had some decent games in there too, 25, 20, 24. But he hasn't had a monster game that we usually see from him a couple times a year. You can see going back to last year, 33 DraftKings points, 36 DraftKings points. I think he's had, I can't scroll down because the video recording software, I think he might have had a game over 40 DraftKings points. I think it was last year, if not the year before for sure. So he does have the ability to put up a monster game. And I think this is a pretty good spot where he could do it against Tampa Bay, who's been pretty bad defensively. So Drew Brees is my favorite quarterback of the week. And I'll talk about the stack when we get to receivers. So for running back, there's a lot of high price running backs again, like most weeks that I like and that I'll be playing the most of. But for the video, I know you guys don't really want to see me talk about the higher priced running backs that are pretty obvious plays. So I'm going to go down with a GPP play down a little bit to 6,100 with Chris Thompson. The Redskins are at Seattle. They are 7.5-point underdogs, total at 45 here. But I kind of like Chris Thompson as an underdog a little better because they could be trailing and he could be in the game more for the passing downs and passing situations. So I like Chris Thompson quite a bit for GPPs. He is getting pricey at 6,100. If you look back to his game log here, he started the season down at 3,700, worked his way up to 5,800 last week, where he still put up a decent score, and now he's at 6,100. But if you look at his DraftKings points scored, even though he's not getting a ton of carries, he's put up in every game but one, he's put up at least 10 DraftKings points. He's put up over 20 3 times, over 30 once here with 33 against the Raiders. And it looks like they're starting to use him a bit more. You can see he only had 4 carries against the Cowboys trailing in that game, but he did see nine targets. He saw 5 targets the 2 games before that as well. He even saw 16 carries against the 49ers. So he's getting more usage lately, and he's an explosive player. They should be playing him a lot more than he is playing, and maybe this is the week where he starts to get some more carries as well. But either way, getting 5 to 9 targets, I think he could pay off that price at 6,100. I think he could have a big game against Seattle. So I'll be throwing him in my GPP lineups. So next up at receiver, first we'll talk about my stack. So we're going to go with Ted Ginn Jr. with Brees. I also really like Michael Thomas, but I wanted to throw in another play here. So Ted Ginn at 5,000. He's getting pretty pricey for the type of usage he sees. If we look at his game log here, you can see he doesn't see a ton of targets, 5, 6, 3, 2, 4, 7, and 4. But he's an explosive player in a good spot. Again, their implied team total is 29.3 points. They're expected to score a lot of points, expected to get some touchdowns. So I think Ted Ginn Jr. could get in on the action. His price has gone up, which usually means ownership might go down a little bit. Last week he was 20% owned. He's in a great spot here. The Saints are in a great spot, so I think his ownership could be somewhat high, but with his price going up, it was down to 3,600 at one point, getting up to 5,000. He might not see his ownership go up too much. Projected ownership here is 5 to 8% just because he's getting a little pricey. I think a lot of people will pay the extra. I believe it's 2,300 for Michael Thomas. But I do think Ted Ginn Jr. is a good play. If we look at his game log, he does have the ability to score the long touchdowns. You can see here 24 DraftKings points. If you go back to last year as well, when he wasn't with the Saints, 25 DraftKings points in a game against the Raiders. So he does have some big upside to score a long touchdown, possibly 2. So I like him for GPPs. I probably wouldn't throw him in cash games. Actually, I don't mind him too much for cash games if you were going to throw Brees in there because you might want someone cheaper than Michael Thomas. But he's probably more of a GPP type play. at 5,000, but like him quite a bit. And then just below him here at 4,900 is T.Y. Hilton, in a pretty good spot against Houston. Again, Houston's not a bad defense, but for the price, 4,900, it's pretty crazy for someone like T.Y. Hilton, someone as good as T.Y. Hilton. He's not getting a lot of DraftKings points this year without Luck in the lineup, but he still has a couple games where he's exploded 31 DraftKings points and 27 DraftKings points. So he's pretty much boom or bust if you look at his DraftKings scores this year, but he is getting the targets 7, 8, 9, 6, 9, 6, 7. So he's getting a lot of targets and always has the ability to score a long touchdown again, or possibly more than one. And at 4,900, that's a big discount. If Andrew Luck was in the lineup, he would probably be closer to 7,000 or above that. So I think he's a great price, 4,900. Projected ownership 31 to 40%. I just couldn't leave him out because I like him that much. I think he's going to be a great play this week. Even if he does only get you maybe 15 DraftKings points, that's still fine at 4,900. Anything less than that would be disappointing. But I think he's got a good chance of scoring over 15 DraftKings points and possibly 25 or more, like he has done twice this year and multiple times in past years as well. So I think he's a great play at 4,900. So those are my two GPP type receivers, and I would probably throw them both in cash games possibly as well, depending on where you go with lineup construction. At tight end here, there's a couple of expensive tight ends that I really like. I really like Zach Ertz, but I didn't want to include him because I thought he was more of an obvious play. So I want to throw in a cheaper tight end that I'll be playing in GPP lineups. George Kittle, I've been playing him quite a bit. I was on him when he scored, I think it was 21 DraftKings points against the Colts. I think I've been on him a little bit each week since, and he's disappointed me. But going back with him this week, with Pierre Garçon out for San Fran, I think Kittle's usage could go up a little bit. And he's a very athletic tight end, 3,200. If you need some savings at tight end, there's not too many good options down around the 3,000 mark. So I think Kittle does make sense. They're not expected to score a lot of points. You can see their implied team total is 18.3. But he does get some red zone looks. If we look at his, I can't scroll over with this software I'm using. Oh yeah, I guess I can do that. So if we look at his red zone targets here, 4-4. Didn't get any against the Cowboys, got one against the Eagles. So he's getting looks in the red zone as well, getting quite a few targets. It's kind of gone down a little bit the last two games, but he had a couple games with 8 and 9 targets. Again, athletic tight end that can break off a long run, and 3,200 is a pretty cheap price. So I'll throw him in some GPP lineups. Again, I wouldn't be too overexposed to someone like Kittle. This week, I'd probably pay up for a tight end if I could. There's a couple guys over 4,000 that I like this week. So Kittle is a GPP play that you probably don't want too much ownership on, but he could have a breakout game. And then to finish it off with a defense here, I'm going to give you guys a cheap defense that I'll be on quite a bit, and that's the Colts at 2,000, the stone minimum there on DraftKings. Ownership should be decently high with Deshaun Watson out, but I thought I had to mention them in this video because I like trying to give out cheap defenses. And this is probably the only defense below 2,500 that I'll be on, at least so far. I haven't really found anyone else in that price range that I'm going to be on. So I wanted to give them out $2,000 going up against the Texans without Deshaun Watson. I think it's a great play, even on the road, even with the implied team total for Houston still sitting at 26.3 points. I still really like them. The Colts defense isn't great, but they do provide, or they do get some pressure on the quarterback. You can see here a couple games we got a game with 4, 3 sacks, forcing some fumbles, forcing some turnovers with interceptions. Their DraftKings scores, although they're a pretty bad defense, their DraftKings scores have been pretty decent, 7, 6, 8, 10. Again, to win a GPP, you're probably going to need a defense that gets you around maybe 20 DraftKings points, depending on the week. But with the turnovers they've created, they could do that here against the Texans. Again, without Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson was starting, obviously you wouldn't want to play the Colts. But with him going down, unfortunately, the Colts come into play at the stone minimum. So if you want to save some money on defense, I really like the Colts. Again, there are some really great defenses that are higher priced. But for GPPs, if you want to save some money and maybe spend up at other positions, the Colts are going to be my top option for a cheap defense. So that wraps up my week 9 picks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a big favor and click that thumbs up button on YouTube. It will help support my YouTube channel. Good luck this week. Talk to you guys later. And again, make sure you guys are signed up for my emails. I'll be emailing out some more picks on Sunday morning. So if you're not signed up for those, click on the DFS email link in the description below. Talk to you guys later.